Close your eyes and take a deep breath, allowing yourself to settle into this moment, because the most successful people in the world understand that clarity begins with stillness, doesn't it? As you continue to breathe deeply, you might notice how your mind naturally begins to focus, and I'm curious about which goals are already forming in your subconscious right now, waiting to be discovered. Have you ever watched a master archer prepare for their shot? They don't just aim and release. They breathe, they focus, they visualize the arrow's path, and most importantly, they write down their target before they even draw the bow. The sooner you begin writing down your goals each day, the sooner you'll discover that your mind transforms from a wandering vessel into a precision instrument, much like that archer's bow. I wonder if you can imagine what it feels like to wake up each morning with absolute clarity about your direction. Some people discover that when they write down their goals, something magical happens in their brain. The neurons begin to fire in patterns that weren't there before, creating new pathways, new possibilities. You don't have to believe me right now, but your unconscious mind already knows this truth. Let me tell you about Sarah, though her name could be anyone's name, couldn't it? Sarah used to drift through her days like a ship without a compass, always busy but never quite reaching her destination. One evening, she discovered something remarkable. She began writing down 3 goals every single morning, and beside each goal, she wrote one specific action she could take that day. What happened next might surprise you. Within just 7 days, Sarah noticed something extraordinary. Her mind began to organize itself around these written intentions. The question isn't whether writing down goals creates focus, but how quickly you'll notice the transformation beginning to unfold in your own life. Because when you write down your goals, you're not just putting words on paper, you're programming your reticular activating system to notice opportunities that were always there but previously invisible. As you continue to listen to my voice, you might wonder how quickly your own mind will begin to automatically seek out the resources, people, and circumstances that align with your written goals. Have you realized yet how your brain is like a sophisticated computer that can only run the programs you consciously install? When you write down your goals each morning, you're installing a new operating system of success. I'm not going to tell you to grab a pen and paper right now, but you might find yourself naturally drawn to the simple act of writing, because writing transforms abstract thoughts into concrete reality. You already know that thoughts without action remain dreams, but thoughts written down become blueprints for achievement. Think about this for a moment. Every building you've ever seen, every bridge you've ever crossed, every technology you've ever used began as someone's written goal. The architect doesn't just imagine the building, they draw it. The engineer doesn't just think about the bridge, they calculate it on paper. You may not be aware of it yet, but your life is your masterpiece, and every masterpiece begins with a sketch. Here's an interesting thing about the human brain. When you write something down, you activate multiple neural pathways simultaneously. Your visual cortex processes the shapes of the letters, your motor cortex controls the movement of your hand, and your prefrontal cortex organizes the thoughts into coherent patterns. This triple activation creates what neuroscientists call encoding redundancy, which means your goals become literally hardwired into your neural network. Speaking of neural networks, have you ever noticed how some people seem to effortlessly move toward their dreams while others struggle with the same aspirations? The difference isn't talent or luck, it's process. Those who consistently achieve their goals have discovered the secret that you're about to integrate into your daily life. They write down their goals every single morning, and beside each goal, they write down the next logical step. By the way, let me share with you what happens in the brain when you write down not just what you want, but what you can do today to move toward it. This combination creates what psychologists call implementation intentions, and research shows this simple practice increases your likelihood of achievement by over 300%. Isn't it interesting how such a simple act can create such profound results? You might be wondering why writing is so much more powerful than just thinking about your goals. Well, when you think about something, you're using your working memory, which can only hold about 7 pieces of information at once. But when you write something down, you're creating an external memory system that can hold unlimited information, and more importantly, you're creating a physical anchor for your intentions. I can sense that you're beginning to understand something important about yourself. You're the kind of person who recognizes opportunity when it presents itself, aren't you? And right now, you're being presented with the opportunity to transform your daily experience from reactive to proactive, from scattered to focused, from hoping to achieving. Let me ask you this. What would happen if, starting tomorrow morning, you spent just 5 minutes writing down your 3 most important goals and 1 specific action you could take for each? How would your life begin to change? How would your days feel different? How would your sense of purpose and direction transform? The sooner you begin this practice, the sooner you'll discover that your mind naturally begins to organize around these written intentions. Because when you write down your goals, you're not just creating a to-do list. You're creating a conversation with your future self. You're telling your subconscious mind exactly what to focus on, exactly what to notice, exactly what to magnetize into your experience. Have you ever watched water flow down a mountain? At first, it seems to move randomly, finding the path of least resistance. But as it continues to flow, it begins to carve channels in the rock. These channels become deeper and more defined with each passing day, until eventually they become rivers that can move mountains. Your daily goal writing practice is like that water, carving channels of intention in your consciousness. I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but successful people think differently about time. They don't see days as units that happen to them. They see days as raw material they can shape and mold. When you write down your goals each morning, you're not just planning your day, you're architecting your future. You're taking the raw material of time and intention and forging it into purposeful action. As you continue to breathe deeply and absorb these words, you might notice something shifting in your understanding. Perhaps you're beginning to realize that the person you're becoming is someone who writes down their goals every single morning. Perhaps you're discovering that this isn't just a good idea, it's an essential practice for the life you're choosing to create. Something tells me you're the kind of person who doesn't just collect good ideas, you implement them. You're the kind of person who recognizes that the bridge between where you are and where you want to be is built one written goal at a time, one daily action at a time. You already know this, even if you haven't fully acknowledged it yet. Let me tell you about Marcus, whose story might sound familiar. Marcus was a brilliant man with big dreams, but he kept his goals locked away in his mind like treasures in a sealed vault. He would think about them, visualize them, even talk about them with friends, but he never wrote them down. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and Marcus found himself in the same place, wondering why his dreams remained just out of reach. One day, Marcus met an old mentor who asked him a simple question. If your goals were so important, why haven't you honored them by writing them down? That question changed everything. The next morning, Marcus began writing down his 3 most important goals and 1 action step for each. Within 30 days, he had made more progress toward his dreams than he had in the previous 3 years. Why? Because writing down his goals transformed them from wishes into commitments. You might be wondering how this story relates to you, and the answer is simple. Right now, in this moment, you're standing at the same crossroads Marcus stood at. You have the same choice he had. You can continue to let your goals remain as beautiful thoughts in your mind, or you can honor them by giving them form on paper. The question isn't whether you have goals worth pursuing, but how quickly you'll begin treating them with the respect they deserve. Because when you write down your goals, you're not just creating a record, you're creating a ritual of commitment. You're telling your subconscious mind, these intentions are important enough to take up space in physical reality. Here's what I find fascinating about the human mind. It's constantly seeking patterns, constantly looking for meaning, constantly trying to make sense of the information it receives. When you write down your goals each morning, you're giving your mind the most important pattern to focus on. You're saying, out of all the possible things you could pay attention to today, these are the most important. As you continue to relax and absorb these concepts, you might notice how natural it feels to imagine yourself sitting down tomorrow morning with a pen and paper, writing down your 3 most important goals for the day. You might notice how satisfying it feels to write down that first actionable step beside each goal. You might even notice how your body feels more energized just thinking about having this kind of clarity and direction. Have you realized yet how writing down your goals creates a special kind of accountability? When your goals exist only in your mind, it's easy to modify them, forget them, or abandon them altogether. But when they're written down in black and white, they become witnesses to your intentions. They become silent partners in your success, reminding you of what you said was important. I'm curious about which goals are already beginning to crystallize in your mind as you listen to these words. Perhaps they're goals you've been carrying around for weeks or months, waiting for the right moment to commit them to paper. Perhaps they're new goals, emerging from this deeper understanding of how your mind works. Either way, they're ready to be written down, aren't they? You don't have to write down your goals tomorrow morning, but you might find yourself naturally drawn to this practice because something inside you recognizes its power. You already know that the most successful people in any field have one thing in common. They get clear about what they want. They write it down, and they take consistent action toward it. Let me share with you one final story about a woman named Elena who discovered something remarkable about herself. Elena had always been a dreamer, full of ideas and aspirations, but she struggled to make consistent progress on any of them. She would start projects with enthusiasm, but somehow other things would always seem to take priority. Her goals remained fuzzy, shifting, and elusive. One morning, Elena decided to try something different. Instead of just thinking about her goals, she wrote them down. Not just any goals, but specific, actionable goals. And beside each goal, she wrote down one thing she could do that very day to move toward it. Something magical happened. For the first time in years, Elena felt a sense of clarity and direction that lasted the entire day. The next morning, Elena wrote down her goals again, and again the next day, and the next. Within a month, Elena had made more progress on her dreams than she had in the previous year. Why? Because she had discovered the secret that you're about to integrate into your life. She had learned that goals written down become goals achieved. Now, as you prepare to return to full awareness, you might notice something interesting happening in your mind. You might notice that you're already beginning to think about what you'll write down tomorrow morning. You might notice that you're already beginning to feel excited about the clarity and direction this practice will bring to your life. You may not be aware of it yet, but your unconscious mind has already begun to organize around this new understanding. It's already preparing to support you in this daily practice of goal setting and action taking. It's already beginning to notice opportunities and resources that align with your written intentions. The sooner you begin writing down your goals each morning, the sooner you'll discover that your days become more purposeful, your actions more intentional, and your results more satisfying. Because when you write down your goals, you're not just planning your day, you're programming your success. As you begin to stir and become more alert, you might notice how natural it feels to reach for a pen and paper. You might notice how eager you are to begin this practice tomorrow morning. You might notice how confident you feel about your ability to not just write down your goals, but to take consistent action toward them. When you're ready, you can open your eyes, knowing that you've just installed a new program in your mental computer. A program that will automatically remind you to write down your goals each morning. A program that will naturally guide you toward the actions that matter most. A program that will transform your relationship with time, with intention, and with achievement. Your goals are waiting to be written down. Your future self is waiting to thank you for this commitment. Your dreams are waiting to become reality. And it all begins tomorrow morning with a pen, a piece of paper, and the willingness to honor your intentions by giving them form in the physical world. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And that step is writing down where you want to go. Tomorrow morning, you'll take that step, won't you?